Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast, presents episode 896, interview with ArturBloodshot, recorded on July 2nd, 2025. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. I am your host, Duststorm, for this episode, and I have the pleasure of having one of the community members from the Latin American region of the Halo community, ArturBloodshot. Thank you for joining us on Podtacular.
Hey, Dust. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here, and we have all the listeners with us.
Yeah. I think this is the first time we've had representation, at least from the LATAM region, on the podcast. I know we've had folks from England and the UK, because that's very native English speaking, but as far as kind of like other countries, I think we're kind of branching out here. I can't remember if we've had Tepecon from the French community.
Well, that's an honor.
Yeah. But yeah, so I wanted to have you on to talk about Halo in the LATAM region, because in talking with several folks, Halo's very different as far as kind of culturally impacting in Mexico and the LATAM region, as far as kind of I've been aware of. And as we're trying to kind of do a little bit more interviews on the community side, I thought this might be an interesting, eye-opening experience for kind of the rest of the Halo community that might be listening, to kind of get a glimpse at what Halo looks like kind of in maybe some other areas around the world that maybe don't get a lot of focus outside of their specific regions. So before we jump into that, though, we have a couple of questions that we ask every guest that we have on the podcast. So we'll start with those two, and then we'll jump into the rest of the stuff. So first one is, how did you get into Halo? What was the thing that you first thing you heard about Halo, or what was kind of the thing that got you interested in Halo and like has been keeping you going all this time?
Oh, well, that takes me to 2001, when I first played the multiplayer with some of my friends that were actually my neighbors. I remember those matches on Rat Race, discovering the rockets, the sniper matches. Those were fun because those were like split screen, like with the shared controller, all that stuff. And then I got intrigued by how this game was already creating this sci-fi universe in my head. So I bought myself one and I ran the campaign and I finished it, and I loved the story. So I stuck with it. So when Halo 2 released, I actually got the limited edition of the Halo 2, and I played the campaign, loved that campaign. Since then, I've been playing every Halo, and, well, being a Halo fan for life.
Yeah. Cool. So what's more attracting to you to Halo? Is it the multiplayer side, or is it the campaign side after you had that initial exposure to Halo?
I mean, the multiplayer, like having all the stuff with the friends, all that time enjoying killing each other, having all this chit chat about the weapons, about all the strategies, is what actually, my first impression of the game. And of course, the campaign is something that, I mean, I came from a family where Star Wars was like very culturally impacting, because my father was a fan of Star Wars. So I have like this kind of, how can I say this, like itch about having to be a fan of something sci-fi. So Halo took that spot. So all the universe around Halo really got into my heart. But of course, when Halo 3 released, and we had Forge, and we had all these communities with machinimas, with the theater, with content creation, I was like, this is the stuff that Halo is about. Like, joining communities, joining efforts to create something more larger and deeper than just playing multiplayer, like creating experiences and sharing them was part of that. So, but yeah, that's what I love about the multiplayer in Halo.
Nice. So I think you've already started touching on what the second question would be, but I'll let you elaborate if it kind of covers more than what you already said. But what is it that you do within the Halo community at large?
Yeah, well, my mainly thing is Forge. I create experiences, UGC for all the community in Halo. I started doing Forge on Halo 3, and for now I've been doing 17 years of Forge already, like plenty of maps. It's part of what I really like to do. It's super ingrained on me, creating experiences. When I first started, I made only maps for playing with my friends, but that evolved quickly to getting known on the community about all the experiences I made.
Nice. What would be one of your things that you're probably most known for in the Forge space? Because you have a lot of credit to quite a few maps. I know that we've even talked about them a few different times on the podcast as we've done some of the Forge coverages that 343 puts out on the website and as new playlists come in. But what are your kind of more notable or more proud things that you've made content wise for Halo and Forge?
Oh my god, there are like a couple of ones. I mean, primarily, I believe everyone knows me about the map Critical Dewpoint. It was a collaboration with Moutain Dew, Xbox, and Halo about having this Halo 3 refill playlist on 2023, 2 years ago. So it was a great collaboration. It was a great experience. It's already been 2 years, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, it feels like yesterday because
I know, right?
It was great news when Moutain Dew approached to me and asked me to create an experience that could help them to relate Moutain Dew with Halo, all the nostalgia behind Halo 3, the drink, and of course the new experience that is Halo Infinite. So when I brought the idea of remaking one of my maps that I made on Halo 3, they were like, okay, this works, we'd love to do that. And they added me into that part of the commission to make a map for the community that will be going to matchmaking so everybody could enjoy.
That's really cool. So what was that process like after you got approached? Was it something where they kind of gave you a blueprint of an idea and said, hey, this is kind of what we're thinking of, can you build something like this? Or did they basically say, hey, what, like, we're doing a Moutain Dew Halo thing, put forth your best kind of mock-up and we'll kind of put a stamp on it? Like, how was that process for you?
Well, it was like sharing ideas of how pushing the nostalgia could work. I mean, what I wanted is to bring nostalgia, right? So getting all the spots on, and also, of course, they wanted to include the brand in there because this map was going to be on matchmaking. It couldn't be like super directly marketing. It had to be subtle, but still having these details of telling, hey, we are talking about Moutain Dew, right? So basically, they share me like those bullets that needed to be covered, but all the idea, I had like a blank paper to make the idea. That's why I brought like remaking an old map that was made on Foundry on Halo 3 to have it like similar concept, similar idea, but with the color palette of Moutain Dew, with some Easter eggs in there, like the vending machine that gives you Moutain Dew, so you get a speed boost and all that stuff. And they loved it. So they basically said to me, okay, you can do that and just share some of the process, some updates, and we can go from there. So I started working on that, and actually they were very happy with how I was managing and producing the idea that we almost had no setbacks. So it kind of flow very great until release. It was a great experience.
Very good. I'm happy to hear that, and it's really cool to see 343 kind of reaching out, or now Halo Studios, to the community to kind of make those types of experiences. Now, I know there's definitely a lot of discussion going around the forgers at this point in Halo's history. I don't know if you care to share anything about that, or have any kind of perspectives that you would like to share. I know there's emotions flying everywhere. There's lots of content creators out there that's like pay the forgers, and it's definitely a chicken and egg type problem, I think, with Forge, because in one hand, 343 Halo Studios has provided this tool for people to make experiences, and people want to go out there and put those experiences, make those experiences. And you being one of several people that have had their content featured in playlists, how do you feel about the current state of Forge? Is it something that you feel like 343 could be doing more, or is what going on is just something that kind of blows over, and that's just kind of part of what's going on with the relationship between developer and community? Like, what do you have any kind of stance on that, or any perspectives?
There's been a lot of this. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussions around that. So I kind of in the middle of that discussion, because I believe that the industry has changed a lot. Like, there is more information at hand, more ways to share your ideas, your creations. So information and features can go faster than before, because having maps, having creations, being featured on matchmaking has been something that always existed since Halo 3 with Bungie, right? We had the Bungie favorites, we have maps on matchmaking for Infection, for MLG, all that stuff. And of course, that repeated itself on every title of the saga. So, of course, there's been the discussion that, okay, but now we have games like Forerunner, we have games like CSGO, where you can create a map, an arena displayable, and you will earn money, right? So there's a difference, and there's something that people need to know that, Bungie in the moment, and now 243 Halo Studios, doesn't actually asked maps to be made from the forgers. What they want is like, if there's already a map in there out there that people already made that actually fits into the idea, into the playlist they want to feature on matchmaking, they will grab it. They don't commission, at least not entirely, for making this map. So of course it will, like I said, the industry has evolved. Of course, some compensation in terms of monetary or something digital or whatever goods could be something that could happen, but not necessarily like it's work. They are not forcing us. And I believe that one of the main aspects of Forge is like, if you want to create, if you want to share with the community your ideas, your visions, you just create. I mean, they just gave us the tool to make that happen. And if you create, you enjoy with the friends, like I did on Halo 3. Like, I was just playing my maps with my friends, but suddenly those credentials get attention of the studio, and they say, hey, we want to feature your map on matchmaking so more players can enjoy it. I think that's something great. I mean, it's not necessarily something that will need to be a business, right? So, of course, there are other terms like the Moutain Dew map that I made. I heard there's another forger that is making a seek and deploy map that is under contract with Halo Studios. Those little things that actually are being asked to be made will be like, of course, has to be a compensation. But for other stuff, I don't think that studios should be obligated to do that.
Gotcha. So the short of it sounds like if they're asking for something specific, there's typically compensation from the studio. Otherwise, they're culling the content that is just out there from people making it and just putting that into different experiences within matchmaking.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's more like giving the creation the spotlight to be on matchmaking, so more players can play it. One of the examples is Goose Hunt. I made Goose Hunt like day one when Forge was launched on Halo Infinite. It took like 3 years to be able to be on Action Sack matchmaking, but it was already there. People already knew it. People were already playing it, but now more players are playing it because it's on matchmaking. So it's not like they are asking for a specific map and we start creating it from scratch and to be able to be in matchmaking, right? Something like more organic.
So what's your opinion on a lot of the discussion that's been going around of if content's getting pulled to be put into matchmaking, and that's the thing that's trying to attract people back, but 343 is using that content to basically make money off of the store. Do you feel that that's just kind of within their right and Halo Studios is clear to do that and it's not a problem, or because they're using that content in order to generate money because of it's attracting people back to use the shop? Do you see that as kind of a disconnect where, hey, if you're introducing content with seasons that's from the community, they should get compensation for that content that's being pulled in?
Yeah, that's a good point, because like I said, the industry has evolved on the point that we have these microtransactions on a free to play game. I mean, like I said, Halo Studios has the right to use the mouse because, for starters, they made the tool to make those mouse, right? But of course, the creators put the effort, the time, all that stuff to make those visions happen. So I believe, and I'm true, I can agree with some of the opinions out there that there should be some kind of compensation, even if it's not real money, maybe some credits or something like that to say like, hey, thank you for helping us make Halo bigger or stand out a little longer, because something that actually happens and people now are able to see is that all Halos has been through this phase, like having to use content created by the community. It happened on Halo 3, it happened on Halo Reach, on all Halos, but because the lifespan of each of those games were around 2, maybe 3 years, it didn't feel like that, right? But now, because Halo Infinite is entering its 4th year, now it's more evident that the use of the creations made by the community. So it kind of is a new topic in the for the game, because like I said, the industry is now different because we have more ways to push content, we have more ways to share our creations, and Halo Studio is, of course, using that to maintain the game alive. So I mean, that's great, because like I said, the community is creating, is pushing, is giving more passion about that. Of course, Halo Studios, what wants is to share that to the entire community. So, not sure about how this will affect a relationship between the business they are, of course, running and all the stuff that around Forge, because, like I said, they made a tool so you will be able to create all these creations, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. The fact that they created the tool, they created the means by which the creators can go and actually create the content, does put a discussion topic into the ownership of that content, right? So like in the way the forgers are just manipulating the content that already exists within the game. But I guess there's kind of the major underlying discussion is something like a forge map considered a piece of art, for example? And does that piece of art, at the expense of being used and consumed by the studio in an official playlist that's being used for their own monetary gain, a proper way to do that? Not necessarily from a legal or technical sense, but I think more from a community perspective and kind of treating your user base fairly. That makes sense. But no, I appreciate your input on that.
Yeah, like I said, I think, of course, there should be some kind of compensation. Like I said, not exactly monetary, but for example, having more exclusives or giving away some credits or some kind of reward to having to considerate all the effort that someone put into creating that map, right? I'm really sure for Halo Infinite, having this kind of success with the OGC, with how this Forge is so powerful to create all these experiences, and of course all the issues with the management during the first years didn't help to have all the frame to make that possible. But I really hope that for future games they can take into account, of course, the viability of UGC, user-generated content, of Forge maps, all that stuff that, of course, since Halo 3, it creates the community, makes the community with multiplayer experience, PvE experiences, even competitive experiences. So having all this power could create a new system for the community with creations and improve the relationship with the developers, in this case, Halo Studios.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to see your perspective on it, and thanks for giving a kind of forger's perspective on it. I think there's a lot of speculation out there. I know some content creators talk with some of the forgers, and there's like, I think the biggest news lately is the Forge Falcons kind of just stopping making all the Forge experiences because of like they definitely put in time and effort into their stuff. But thank you for sharing your input and expertise into that. Hopefully that gives some other people something to chew on and other viewpoints into the whole discussion around.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So
let's jump over a little bit to staying kind of on the Forge topic before we get into the LATAM stuff. You're a part of the Forge Council, so you kind of help develop and build and have a little bit of input into maybe some of the stuff that gets into matchmaking and that kind of stuff. Have you been able to kind of get your head wrapped around the idea when like Halo Infinite Forge was being developed, like all these cool tools that are out there, and comparing it to, I don't know if you've used stuff like the Fortnite Unreal Engine type stuff for creating experiences in there, but are there other types of ideas with Forge? I mean, Halo Infinite Forge is pretty powerful, and it's crazy to see some of the stuff that's out there, but are there things that you've seen from other franchises or games that's like, this would be cool, a cool addition to Forge with Halo? Has any of that kind of stuff come up with you or within the Forge Council as like maybe Halo is being developed, or just your own personal thoughts of what might be able to improve Forge for future years? Because it's like, there's a lot that's already out there in Forge right now.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of aspects that we would love to have in Forge right now, actually. For example, one of the first things that every forger would love to see or to have is a terrain editor. So we can sculpt all the terrain, make valleys, canyons, even rivers to fill them with water, all that stuff. Right now, Forge kind of works like a Lego or a kit bashing system where you just grab the objects and kind of manipulate position, rotation, scaling, so you can create different things and simulate rivers, simulate all the terrain. That actually, it kind of works. It's not as bad, but it will need some learning curve to do that, and of course, attention to detail. So terrain editor will help to be more easy this task.
With the move to Unreal Engine, do you think that would be more attainable going forward for future Halo titles?
I mean, we can see how Fortnite works, so I can expect something like that for Halo Infinite. So of course, it will be more viable for the community to create more stuff like this. Like using the tools from the Unreal Engine could be helpful to improve the creation of these experiences, or even further, because Unreal Engine is evolving each year. So of course, having these tools on all these sorry, I forgot the word. Well, yeah, with Unreal Engine will be more to come, and of course, Forges will need to learn about more development stuff behind the scenes, blueprints, all that stuff. But the outcomes will be very, very amazing.
Okay, that's exciting to hear. Any kind of big improvements that you personally are excited for from moving from the Slipspace engine to Unreal?
Well, of course, the materials that you can tune all the materials, create your own materials. So the playable spaces look more livid, more like your vision. Of course, all the physics stuff that you might be able to edit, right? To manipulate. That would be cool to have on. Even if we have a new Forge version of Unreal Engine, that would be great to have. Like I said, when we are forging, imagination is the limit. I'm still very surprised. Even these years, I've been forging for 17 years, but even up today, I'm surprised on how the community, how some forgers are able to discover new techniques, new ways to be able to push their dreams. They're able to push their ideas on the engine, right? Like something like maybe manually is not possible. Somehow they find a workaround to make that possible. With Unreal Engine, I'm pretty sure that will be going more further.
Okay. So do you see Unreal Engine Forge being more, I guess, the game editor mode being the specific to Halo, and then just having the Unreal Engine being the development platform for people to kind of build their own maps and assets?
Kind of like what happens with MCC, because we have like the mods on MCC where, of course, you need more development knowledge to be able to manipulate the game. But
Right.
of course, we still have Forge on Halo 3 and Halo 4, right? So I can see like this mimicking all this stuff, like having the Forge base where is a more controlled space, a more controlled tools to manipulate the playable space, and of course for the advanced warriors, for the advanced forgers to have advanced tools, more stuff deep into Unreal Engine, be able to edit scripting, blueprints, all that stuff. So it will be great, a great pair of ideas to have that stuff when Unreal Engine comes in.
Okay. That it sounds like there's a lot of potential. It'll be curious to see how Halo takes advantage of that.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot, because Halo is, like I said, since Halo 3 is more about content creation, community creation. So there's a thin line between how Forge will help that and how Unreal Engine could be more like a dev tool. Because what Forge wants to be and always wants to be is just a platform where a map editor where you can create stuff without having to go deep into learning programming or a development tool, right? And that was the point of Halo Infinite's Forge, like how we can make this powerful tool to be able to be at hands of every player, so any player can actually build and don't feel afraid, don't be scared of having to learn a lot of stuff, right? So they can just place a block and start from there, and within 2 hours you can create something that you can actually say, oh, I made this and I can play this, right? So I hope and I expect that this philosophy continues with Unreal Engine.
Very cool. All right. Enough of the Forge stuff for now. So, as far as I've been told from some of my other Halo community friends, and talking with you within the Forerunners and at Worlds a couple times, I get the sense that Halo in the LATAM region has a different influence than it does in the rest of the world. And it feels like Halo is kind of a big deal, or kind of just sci-fi genres in general is kind of a big deal. Is that a fair assessment? Or I mean, you mentioned that you grew up on Star Wars, and then Halo was kind of a really cool thing. So is that something that really is part of that culture? Is there something there that really brings attraction to things like Halo and sci-fi type things?
I think so. Yeah, I truly believe that because, well, the thing is that here in Mexico and Latin America in general, Xbox is one of the consoles that is most played. Like the statistics says that most of the players of the gamers in here play on Xbox. So of course, a lot of players in here know Halo because it's one of the main IPs of Xbox. So that's the thing. I mean, the population in here that plays Halo is bigger than most of the countries, I believe. Of course, nothing compares to NA, right? But still, for being Spanish talkers in here, Halo is big on this side.
Would you say Halo is probably one of the more popular franchises within kind of the first-person shooter genre on Xbox?
I will say yes, because there's a lot of passion here. Like I said, Xbox is the main console, so a lot of players, maybe they are not super competitive or like super Halo fans, but at least they know Halo and they know what it's about. So that's a good stuff in here.
Okay, because I feel like, at least within the US, there's definitely an appeal to Halo, and I think a Halo is a household name just by virtue of how popular it was for Xbox. But as we've gotten more franchises, and how there's definitely kind of that, and I don't know if the console wars thing is a whole thing down in Mexico and the LATAM region, but you're probably aware of the whole like PlayStation versus Xbox type thing
Yeah,
up in the
of
States.
course.
And there's lots of good franchises out there within the sci-fi shooter space, but it seems like Halo in the US is definitely a recognized name, not necessarily the most played these days compared to something like Fortnite or Call of Duty. But it sounds like Halo is still pretty popular, if not like maybe one of the most played first-person shooters within Mexico or the LATAM region. So it's just kind of interesting to hear that if you look at the population of a country, it's almost like, okay, Halo in Mexico is like, that's the kind of premier first-person shooter genre game that's played. Is kind of what it sounds like. Is that accurate at all, or is that just kind of more me getting wrapped up in my own internal circles?
I maybe no. I mean, hopefully I'm not wrong, but I haven't done a deep research on that, of course. But I may say that. Wait, sorry. Let me order my ideas here. Okay, yeah, well, because maybe just because Halo came with how the evolution of the industry in gaming occurred here in Mexico. On the 2000s, it was very powerful, like getting the Xbox, getting the PlayStation 1, all this stuff, like getting the big ones, right? So when Halo came in and Xbox was like the most used console here in Mexico, of course, Halo pushed like the name on all the community, right? Like everybody knew about Halo. So that generation actually helped to embrace the title, the franchise. So until these years, even the children of those players know Halo because of that, right? I mean, it's not like this the most popular or the most played because, of course, there's Battle Royale. There's a lot of other games that already creating more interest inside the community. But since all the technology, the revolution of the technology and the gaming occurred here in Mexico when Halo was having its first days, its first years, it kind of is ingrained in the community and all the culture in here of gaming.
Interesting. So there really is kind of just that Xbox culture that seems to kind of have stuck. And would you say that Xbox is kind of, I guess, winning the console war within Mexico, or is it just kind of a timing thing?
I think Xbox has more presence here in Mexico. We even have
Okay.
the division of Xbox Mexico, and there was a lot of stuff going on after the pandemic. It kind of slowed down, but we have like Xbox Fan Fest and all this stuff that actually connect with the people, right? Like it was like an E3 about Xbox for only Mexico, for example. I don't see that happening from other enterprises, but like I said, that helped a lot to push the name of Halo on that generation. So the generations nowadays, of course, know about Halo, and that people are kind of like I said with my father. Like my father was fan of Star Wars, kind of grew in me, and then I discovered Halo. Now people are doing the same with Halo, right? And they are inheriting that love, that passion for the game, and that helps a lot to create more community.
That's really cool. Is there anything else within kind of the LATAM region you feel like Halo has a different experience than those from the States?
I'm not so sure about.
I know you guys get a lot of cool collector's items too. Like you had the Halo 5 backpack, which I had to get from another Halo collector to get. But you guys get some really cool like toys and other goods down there that we don't up here in the States. And I don't know if that's just because of the Xbox, the Mexico Xbox presence there, or is it just different interests in different kinds of things down in the LATAM region compared to the States?
Well, every region has their own marketing. For example, here we have like these tassels, like some circular plastic stuff, where you can collect, or you can even fight for them, because you have to, like this game on the Squid Games, where you have to turn around the foes tassel. So we have like these things that came in Doritos, for example, that I think no other region had. So that's cool stuff to get. Of course, one thing that is super funny and great to have here is the dub, right? The Spanish dub we had on the games, especially on Halo 2, was something great because it has its own story. But long story short, the dub of that game was made basically in 2 days, I believe. So there's a lot of cultural words and phrases in there that are not neither Mexican or Colombian or stuff. Like it's like a super ultra cultural mix of all the Spanish languages mixed in one stuff. So the dub on Halo 2 is something that actually has joined the community, on the entire Latin community, because you can feel familiar with how the story, the language, all the narration goes into the story of Halo 2, but you can like say, okay, this sounds familiar, but it's not like from my country. And you can even point out which phrases are from Mexico, but everything else is like, well, different, right? But at the end is like very famous around that time.
And you kind of touched on hearing different dialogue in the game, and obviously different regions have different voice actors. So obviously Steve Downes is known as the Master Chief, but well, you all have a different Master Chief in the LATAM region. So how does that kind of change your perception, or does it, like, how do you perceive that when you have different voice actors for your region? And is the lip syncing up to date, or is it just kind of an audio cover and the lip sync is completely off? And I guess for the LATAM region, the person that plays, like we're talking about Master Chief, like I'm guessing they're pretty well known down there, right? And I haven't done my research on this, but I guess who are they?
Oh yeah, I mean, lip sync for Master Chief, I don't think that's an issue because he always has a helmet.
Right.
But yeah, but yeah, of course, the dub here in Mexico, for example, we have Raul Anaya as the Master Chief here. So yeah, they are a big deal. Like I said, of course, Steve Downs is the voice of Master Chief for most of the world, but some another aspect that I want to include in here, like I said, having Xbox and PlayStation coming to Mexico during the 2000s was kind of like a revolution. So during those years, we didn't get the games in the original language in English. We actually got all the games in Spanish. There was no option to get them unless we bought them or we ordered them. Yeah, we import them. So all that generation, of course, grew up with the voices on Spanish. So all the voices, the cast behind the games, like Raul Anaya and the voice of Cortana, of course, the voice of the Arbiter, they are very well known. And for example, we have here something that is called the Spartan Fest. It's like a fan-made festival made for fans to fans. And they are always invited, and there is a lot of emotion going there because, of course, people will love to be able to enjoy some little time with the voices that they grew up with, right?
I know at Worlds, you get to see Steve Downs and Jen Taylor, but Mexico, I think so. I got a flyer for, I think there's like is there a big Halo kind of festival down in Mexico, or is it just kind of a fan fest type of thing?
Yeah, it's like a fan fest. Like I said, it's made from fans to fans. There is an artist alley. There are some content creators invited, and of course these actors, right? For example, we are going to have this Spartan Fest 2025, and we are also gonna get the actor, the voice behind Marcus Phoenix, but the dupe, the Spanish one. So we are going to have, I believe it was Sebastian Lapour. Yeah. So they're going to be Sebastian Lapour and Raul Anaya in the same room. So that's going to be interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So as the experience for Halo for you, did you kind of experience through the Spanish Mexican lens for the first few games, and then you got exposed to the English side of things? And did that change your perspective at all? Or have you always kind of been aware of the English side of the game and how that experience is?
Actually, I kind of mixed because Halo Combat Evolved, I got it imported, so I played that game on English, actually. Well, Halo 2, I got it on Spanish, so... Well, I kind of grew with both. And since I like to play the game in English because since Halo 3, I got involved in the community, and of course, most of the community that specialized in Forge was North American. So that also helped me a lot to learn English, to do more stuff. And of course, all the involvement had to be in English, right? So having this mix of the perspective of English community and the Spanish community, Latin community, is what actually helped me to become who I am right now, like the ambassador, having to gather all the feedback, the comments, being able to share all that's happening in the community and the global community with the folks here in Latin America. So I really love to be involved with both the communities. It's like very fortunate to be in that state. So
that's really cool. It's very interesting to hear the history of how Xbox has really made an influence down there and how things are a little bit different. I know if being in the States and being in the country that makes the games, we kind of have that, well, this is how the game is supposed to be. And it's when you get outside of the US and the English speaking areas, obviously there's differences to the community experience and the game experience. So thanks for shedding some light on how that is for at least Mexico and the LATAM region. Is there any other kind of pointers that you think makes or would kind of entice people to hear about outside of the US on how the game's at least perceived or received in the LATAM region from either the community side of things, from the development side of things, from the fan outreach and commitment to the franchise, like anything else that kind of sticks out in your head?
Well, something like I said, Halo is very important here in the region, so we are very passionate about the franchise. So, of course, the region is waiting for new Halo games, right? They are eager to have new experiences. We can't wait for the next chapter of Halo. We should wait for October to learn about that, but that's gonna be great. I mean, something that a lot of people has said, speaking of artists, music bands, is that the people here in Latin America, especially in Mexico, we are very passionate. So we kind of are we show emotions, we show all that energy that something like Halo brings to us, right? So we kind of strive to replicate or resonate with all that emotion, bring it back to the studio, to developers, or to the people, or even the community that we love, right? So that's one aspect I believe that is very natural on me, because I love to push innovative ideas, helping others to push their ideas out there. So I love the Forge, I love community, I love creating stuff. So that's something I really want to keep pushing for this game, Halo Infinite, and for the future games.
I would be right there with you 100%. Halo is a wonderful franchise, and I think it's really cool to see how much support it gets from its fan base, even though we tend to drop off as far as the people playing the game kind of out of the box. But I think for those of us that are kind of hardcore playing the game, it's a really tight-knit group of folks, and it is a work of passion to try to keep the community going and seeing everything that gets continually pushed out from the studio, from the community, with Forge and other aspects of the community like machinima, cosplay, artists, content creators, all that kind of stuff. Would you say that content creation is also a big thing down in Mexico?
Oh, yes, of course. Here in Latin America, we have a lot of content creators that actually love to play Halo, love to share their ideas. It's been a generational aspect because we have like these pioneers of content creation of Halo that inspired others to make the same stuff. So there's a lot going on there.
It's nice to see that there's a lot of interest to keep that franchise going and to build the community and keep adding to it. So good on you guys.
Yeah,
that's to do that.
Yeah, that's super great. That's something we are wanting to push a little further with the grassroots program. Like we have Extreme Breaker, that is the only one in there in the program, but he's striving to push a lot of content. We are doing, I'm helping him to make tournaments, to make play dates. Like I said, it's great to have and to see this inspiration going on. There was something great that one of the pioneers, one of the great content creators here in Latin America, like he already jumped out of playing Halo. He's playing other games. But since we made a tournament, a collaboration with Twitch Latam, it was fun to have him back playing Halo. And it was great because we grew up watching their YouTube's videos, their streams, and it's funny to see that we were like wanting to play with him. And now on the tournament, we invited him to play on our tournament. And now we were casting their plays and all that stuff. So it like I said, it's something very inspirational and very positive to push out in the community, like having these generations of players that inspired us, and now we are going to inspire other people to do the same with the future.
Glad to hear it. I know Podtacular is definitely a smaller name in the space, but there's plenty of content creators out there in the US that continue to inspire more people. But it sounds like you guys definitely have, with the experience that Halo has brought and the Xbox as a brand has brought to Mexico and the LATAM region, that's just a lot more tight knit than it is here in the US, where we get inundated with so many other games in the genre space. It feels like.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thanks for taking some time out to talk Forge and talk LATAM. I think that might be something I'll continue to pursue is how Halo's kind of perceived and experienced in other regions, because Halo's definitely an international thing. We had our first international trophy holder at Worlds last year, which was incredible to see that there's international competition now at the competitive level. And Halo's always been like across the world. It's just we tend to get wrapped up in the English side of things here in the US. So thanks for taking some time out of your evening to talk about that stuff. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. And I hope, of course, to enlighten a little more the community about how Halo is very important for LATAM in here.
Where can people find you and your content and all your latest and greatest Forge projects?
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course, you can find me on almost every social media as ArturBloodshot. And you can check all my stuff on ArtStation, or you can check on HaloWaypoint.com my maps with the tag ArturBloodshot.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Artur, for being on the podcast. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm still on parental leave, so the podcasts are going to be sporadic here until I'm back on some kind of a regular schedule. But I wanted to take this opportunity, as I'm starting to get a little bit time back, to have Artur on. So again, Artur, thank you very much for being on. And we will catch you all in the next episode. Don't know if it'll be live streamed or not, but we'll have another one out here pretty soon. Thank you for listening to Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. You can find our podcast on your favorite podcasting service and listen to us live every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Check out our website, podtacular.com, and join the community on Discord at podtacular.com/discord. If you want to play Halo with us, come join us for Fraggin' Fridays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Become a supporter of the show by sharing the show with your friends and family, or help keep the lights on by subscribing to us on Twitch, donating via PayPal, or becoming a patron alongside Confal, Pens Halo, and Prestige Ace. Until next time, keep on fragging trucks.